So the movie we're talking about today is not a brand new release. It actually came out in 2019, and I just got to see it this past weekend on Prime. It was for rent for only $2.99, and my girlfriend and I had been wanting to see it for quite some time, so we figured, what the hell? The movie is called Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Céline Sciamma, and starring Noémie Merlant and Adèle Haenel. I apologize profusely for how much I know. I must have just butchered those names. The film takes place in the 18th century, where Merlant plays a painter who has been asked to come to an isolated island to paint a wedding portrait for a woman who's about to be married off soon, played by Haenel. The tricky part is that Haenel's character has been very much against being painted, so Merlant has been tasked with painting her in secret, coming off as if she's just a companion for walks and just to hang around, when in reality she's gathering details for the portrait. As time goes on and the wedding day comes closer, the two women grow closer to each other in more ways than one. This is one of those films that I'd heard very great things about from other reviewers, and recently it's jumped into the ranks of the IMDb Top 250. So naturally, I was curious about how good this film was, and I had been wanting to see it. I live in the Chicagoland area, but not in Chicago, so when it was first hitting theaters near me, the closest ones that it was playing in were just the ones that were literally in the city of Chicago. So I don't exactly go out there to see movies very often unless it's like a very early release or a very limited release. When they finally did start putting it in more theaters, time just didn't allow. And my girlfriend really wanted to see the movie as well. So I wasn't gonna be that guy who was like, yeah honey, I'm gonna go see it without you and then I'll tell you how it is. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. Not just because I think it's wrong to do that, but my girlfriend could probably kick my ass. And then the pandemic happened, and then theaters closed, and gradually the movie moved toward the back of my mind. And then this past weekend, we found out that the movie was on Prime Video for only $2.99 to rent. One thing I will say right off the bat is that this is a very gorgeous looking and very gorgeous sounding movie. The colors burst off the screen. It almost looks like it's a painting itself. And the movie was shot in 8K, so it was made for a very particular theater experience. And that was one of the reasons why I was kind of disappointed that my first time watching it was at home on my small TV, because, I mean, naturally, a theater experience or a theater screen is going to be a lot better setting for seeing that for the first time. With that being said, even on the small screen, this movie looks amazing, and the performances are excellent all across the board. I know that if I try to say their names again, I'm going to butcher them, but the two lead actresses, they are amazing. I can't wait to see what they do next, and hopefully I'll learn how to pronounce their names accurately pretty soon. Despite all of that, I do have to admit, even though the movie is really beautiful and really great to look at, and has superb editing and acting, and pretty much is just an all-around well put together movie, fantastically put together movie, I would say, it's not going to be for everybody. This is an extraordinarily slow-moving movie, and there are a lot of scenes that will be hard to watch for some people. And it's not just the idea that it's about two women growing close to each other and falling in love. It's that there are some very deep and mature subject matters that the film explores. And it explores them really, really well, but it's not going to be easy for a lot of people to latch onto. For example, the number of characters in the film is small, but there's one particular character who is kind of a supporting character to the main characters in the film. And she ends up going through, not to spoil it for anybody, but I'll just say she goes through a particular ordeal that is a very sensitive and very controversial topic for a lot of people. And the main characters try to help her out with it and get her through the ordeal in some interesting ways that at the time were probably seen as not normal, but the way out and the way to do that thing, which a lot of people today would probably consider barbaric. However, it really does touch on a giant theme in the film that, other than love, the movie gives a very deep exploration of personal freedom versus what society expects of you, especially if you're a woman in a very dark and dangerous time. That time being 18th century France, when it wasn't exactly looked well upon when two women are in a lesbian relationship, and especially when one of the women is supposed to be married off to this other guy. And she obviously doesn't really want that. Meanwhile, this lady who's painting her, and painting her in secret, has a job to do. And she also has to deal with being somebody who's trying to make a living as an artist and do what she loves to do in a way that doesn't really upset the status quo, and she always has to be in the shadow of her father, who's also a famous artist. This woman has to make a living through her painting, even if it means she has to paint a picture of this lady who doesn't want to be married off. And in a way, she feels almost like she's giving this woman off to this guy who she doesn't even know. And she feels like she's giving her away by painting and finishing this portrait. So there's a little bit of an internal conflict that also comes along with this developing romance between these two. And it makes for some surprisingly suspenseful stuff in the movie that I genuinely wasn't expecting. It's not like flat-out horror film or thriller suspense, but there's this really foreboding air to the movie. Amongst all the beauty, and amongst all the beautiful visuals, and amongst the romance, there's this almost impending doom feel that you know that this cannot last forever. And I'm not going to say exactly where the movie goes, but the very last shot of the film captures that beautifully. And I've got to say, not my favorite ending scene ever, not even my favorite ending scene of a movie made in 2019. But as for final shots in movies, I would put this probably in my top 10. It's very simply set up, but this final shot contains some of the best acting and best music choice, and just the best overall choice in what they set up in this one shot. It's probably some of the best I've ever seen, yet it's so simple. There's nothing super flashy about it. It's just a great performance and great circumstances. And I don't want to give away what that is. You'll understand what I mean when you see the film, though. I have to state that this movie is not going to be for everybody. And I'm not gonna even say that this is a movie that I'm gonna watch a lot. But I'm very glad I watched it, because this is a masterfully made film. Alright guys, that's it for this review, but stay tuned for others coming in the near future. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys later.